Hello, people of the world, and welcome to the fourth episode of Keeping Alive. In this podcast, I invite guest speakers to tell their story of what truly keeps them alive. They will share what their life means to them, as well as what inspires them to keep on living. I'm your host, Hayden Garratt, and I hope that from these discussions, you fellow listeners can take away a thing or two to help your own life and your own journey in keeping alive. So let's get started. My guest today is Chang Park. Chang and I have been friends since 4th grade, and I've had the privilege of watching him grow as a person and as a musician. Chang moved from South Korea to the United States at an early age and has put much of his time and effort in playing music. Since the start of middle school, Chang has performed in a jazz band playing the trumpet. He is now creating his own music influenced by contemporary Korean pop, jazz, hip-hop, and metal. I'd like everyone to meet Chang Park.
How's it going?
How's it going, Chang?
I mean, like everybody, just trying to hang in there, keep ourselves sane.
Well, that's actually my first question is what's keeping you alive at this moment?
I think music is one thing that's keeping me alive. I think being able to creatively express whatever I'm thinking or feeling is one thing to keep me sane mentally. Physically, I think just walking out, taking walks here and there. Just trying to not let this all collapse, not let it overrun my head,
Yeah.
with negative thoughts. Just taking it easy. Things are going to be okay. And there are people out there, smart people getting together who are figuring this out and who are going to bring us back to normal. I don't know what normal is going to be, but I mean, with the quarantine happening, live performances, live music is on hold right now. Being able to go out and play. But that gives me a lot of more personal time for practicing, figuring things that weren't working throughout, my own personal problems and taking care of those things. So that kind of helps me, feel more positive with myself, figuring my own problems out. But over this quarantine, I've seen a lot of projects and a lot of collaborations being released online, like there's a trumpet player out there in New York named Gifton Jellin who just released his album, his very first album. And it's been really inspiring just listening to it. He's a young trumpet player, but he's got a lot of ideas with melodically. He has his own voice through the trumpet and, really soulful ideas and beautiful melodies. And I mean, that's really inspiring me to think about some of my ideas and some of, my compositions and how I want to maybe, be influenced with how he is creating his voice and figure out what I personally like.
Yeah, that actually is a really good transition into my next question, which is what are some inspirations that you have from that have impacted your life? This could be movies, music, a certain artist. So you talked about the artist in New York. What was some of your first influences that made you be like, yeah, I wanna focus on music?
Man, I mean, I think we take influences from a lot of things, ranging from small things to big things. And I've taken influences from a lot of people. Like, I think the first musical influence I took was, you remember Xander from high school? Yeah. He was just a high school not just I'm sorry.
Just a high school
He
band.
was just a teacher. No, he was a band director, music teacher at Southridge High School, an amazing educator, an amazing teacher. He's not only influenced me, but he's influenced a lot of people throughout that band program to, pursue our life into music, And it wasn't just like I like trumpet and I like performing, playing jazz, improvisation music, and so on and forth. But he's influenced in different ways. You know, like there was a bassoonist named Kyle, I believe, who's going on to do great things and playing all the time and playing classical music. And I remember Xander telling me a story about how when he first influenced Kyle into really pursuing into music, Kyle came back with blistered fingers. Like his fingers were all bloodied up and he was putting bandages on them and stuff. And he was excited to come up to Xander and show him his fingers. Like, look, Xander, look at my hands. And Xander sees it and it's just all cut up. And Xander's like, what'd you do? Why is your hand all bloodied up? And Kyle says, I practiced for 6 hours straight last night. And my fingers were just starting to, hurt a little bit. And then he just forgot about it and just kept blistering up. But it's like these little small passions that he's added into students, which is kind of a great thing for a music educator to do. You don't have to make them love music, but you should help them find something that they love to do.
Yeah.
Like Xander wasn't the greatest jazz musician, but he's helped me find something I like through music. And, since his specialty is music, he's helped a lot of people, and it doesn't have to be music too. It can be coming from, attitude. Xander's definitely demonstrated a lot of attitude and given a lot of his students leadership roles and skills to help them, in their future, like colleges or even their future jobs. That's not music.
Yeah, I remember in high school, I never took band, but the only experience I had with Xander was I took a Guitar 1 class, and
I remember that.
It used to be another teacher teaching Guitar 1, but then they were like, "Oh, Xander's a musician, like he could teach this class." And Mr. Xander was like, "I don't play guitar." So the whole class, he was like looking up online and just like playing beginner guitar with us, and he's doing like Yankee Doodle Dandy and being like, "Yeah, I think it goes somewhat like this."
Yeah, man, just finding a YouTube channel,
Yeah, honestly. But I liked his will that he was like, well, we're gonna do this. And he was like he had these little moments of passion where he was like, oh dang, like I got this tune. And because he's learning right along with us, and he was a good teacher in that process.
Right. I mean, that shows good, role model skills. Like, he shows a demonstration of how students should learn, and even demonstrating the attitude. I think that's an important factor of it. I've met so many great educators, throughout my life whose biggest topic in teaching was really the attitude, whatever level you're at, whether it's music or even, just anything, you might be really educated in one topic while the person next to you who's studying the same topic might not be as, well educated. But, as long as you have this strong attitude in you, of wanting to achieve greatness, wanting to really go forth with what your goal is, what your dream is, then you will get there, and I feel like the leveling of things, I don't know if I really need to get into this topic, but
I'll continue.
Yeah. Like with the attitude, of wanting to pursue into that greatness, once you figure that out and really push forth into it, because as years go on, that attitude's going to start evaporating. And you're going to have to work really hard to maintain that attitude, to pursue it. But
the motivation turns into determination.
Exactly. Like things change, as years go on, our brains change without us really realizing, and things start, going good or bad, depending on how well you have control on your consciousness and subconsciousness. But yeah, where was I going with this? Like, I guess, going back to the topic with attitude, you once you get to the goal, I feel like everyone's gonna get to a certain same level, you know. Like maybe they're smidge, have a better understanding of a certain thing, or they have their own personal ideas, but everyone kind of plateaus. It's like that in music too, you know. Like everyone kind of gets to a certain level where everyone does everything, you know.
Mm.
Like, oh, like that guy can do that, me too, They're all like at a high level with all of their resume checking off exactly the same. But then there's those small things that they were passionate about. Let's say I was more passionate about my sound quality on the trumpet than being able to do all these technical, really, you know, kind of crazy things, chaotic, very virtuosic things.
Mm.
Then that's my specialty, and I have a much more deeper connection with that.
Yeah.
Someone else could have a deeper connection with something else, but we all get to the same level where we're just uniquely different. I don't know. I don't know why I went into that whole spiel, but
No, it's good. We all, I mean, it's all about putting in the time, and there could be a a trumpet player in Portland that has the same kind of skill as you, but is completely different compared to you because you all have different roads to what you're passionate about.
right. I mean, yeah, I can name a couple right now. Just like I have a friend, better trumpet player than I am, honestly, but he's really passionate about mariachi music, just and he's not just a trumpet player. He tries to learn everything possible in that music, mariachi, even vocal.
Hmm.
So like every time I see like his social media page, I always see a new mariachi song that he's recorded and arranged everything, and it's beautiful,
Wow.
man. Just like, yeah, and that's his, passion. He comes from that culture. His family's grown up and learned this music. He has a household full of musicians and a whole family. So yeah, man.
I'd love to talk a little bit more about your development in your own music. Um,
Hmm.
you have had inspirations that have now made what is behind you right now your background. Can you explain a little bit your inspirations and then what that background is?
Yeah, I mean, I think my inspiration in music is always expression,
Yeah.
a deep level of expressing. I don't
Mm.
know, and that music, I think the perfect music for that was jazz music. Like I mean, jazz. I don't like the word jazz, but maybe improvisation, because it doesn't have to be just jazz music. It can be a classical music that's improvised and someone can express as deeply into that music as
Yeah.
someone would in jazz. But just the improvisation music as well as hip hop. I just always love the sound of hip hop, the beats, you know, the samples sometimes. They're just beautiful.
Mm.
And what led me into Namu, which is the background you see, um, was really trying to find my own voice too, in music. Like, not just the trumpet, but what specific sounds do I like? What sounds can I make that could really show what's going on with me?
Yeah.
What am I feeling? What am I trying to express here? And I guess, that's where I've created the band, trying to incorporate my love for expressive art as well as hip hop. Hip hop is also an expressive art form, but two different sounds. Improvisation music and then hip hop. Well, arguable, but continuing on, as well as trying to find my own voice, which is, I'm from South Korea, born and raised there, and then moved here.
Mm.
So me trying to figure out my Korean culture, since I've lost touch with it from a young age, I've been trying to just kind of discover things like listening to old traditional Korean music, Nanta, Samulnori, things like that, and trying to learn what were they doing, why were they singing those music, or why were they playing them, Some of them were spiritual music, trying to get all of the bad evil spirits away from certain areas, or some were to praise towards the what do you call them, like the harvest gods, like for harvest seasons, yeah, so they would make these like drums, big drums, like the taiko drums. It's very similar to that, where they would play it out in the field and dance and sing and have cymbals like clanging on. And it was a lot of it was based on spirituality, like being able to connect with different spirits, so all this music was happening way before then, and I wasn't very familiar with it. I've experienced traditional Korean music and performed, in that field, but I guess since it was a young age, I just kind of took it for granted, just learned the stuff, put it in my muscle memory, and just performed it. But once I started kind of researching more and more into it, then I started understanding there's a correlation between, traditional music all the way to the music now. And mainly that's because we're human, Humans know one thing with music or art form is to really try to express themselves. And we are constantly developing. So I just try to incorporate it, whatever I can, whatever I learn, just take inspiration from it, take a traditional Korean melody and, let's put a hip hop beat under it, or put some chords that you wouldn't really normally hear in pop songs or regular songs, and then develop even the form of some of these songs, like a lot of jazz forms that you've come across would have, A, B, A, B, A, C.
What is that to a non-music person?
So A, B, A, B, A, C would be saying like section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4. So it's almost like dividing each section. Like, how when you hear a pop song, you hear first verse and then pre-chorus and then chorus. It's very similar to that, where the A section serves a certain purpose of the song, where it's like a build-up, like the verse is a build-up, and then the pre-chorus is the second build-up to the chorus. A, B, A, C kind of functions like that. A is kind of the introduction. Then we go to B section, and that B section is a development to that. A section coming back to it, coming back to that first main topic, and then the C section wrapping it all up.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially as old as like Shakespearean poetry.
Exactly. I believe all art forms, like all the great art forms, had just perfect formation that made sense. The blues is very similar to that, I think. The blues is a 12-bar form that is like one of the greatest, like 12 bars.
Yeah.
The blues works similar, like it has a function. The first 4 bars is a statement of something tragic happened, and then the second 4 bars, or the second 4 bars is the repeat of that statement. And then the last 4 bars is the answer to that statement, There's a great song by Bessie Smith. I think it's called Backwater Blues, where it talks about, the times in New Orleans where floods would happen. Like they would get flooded and lose everything in there, lose their house, lose everything they own. And she talks about in the first 4 bars, like, my house drowned up, I lost everything. Second 4 bars repeats, same thing, I've been just standing out here, rain's just pouring, my house got all, drowned. These aren't the best words to describe them by.
And then with the resolution at the end.
Exactly. Now she's packing all of her stuff in her, suitcase and moving along, finding a new life. And I mean, that's strong. You first have your statement like, this is my problem. The second statement is just like, this is my problem. Like, I'm saying it. I'm like expressing it. I'm like yelling it out. And, what am I going to do? Then you pack your stuff and you go on. Or like this last statement is like, the resolution. Well, how are we going to fix this problem? And it's the perfect cycle too.
Yeah.
It's kind of how right now we're in the second 4 bars, like we're in the trouble now, but there will be a resolution with this quarantine. It's like the blues, and blues comes from a deep heritage. I mean, you have to do your research. It's deep. It's really deep.
So I want to go back a little bit to you talking about your Korean influence with your band Namu, and how what was that spark that you had to want to pursue to try to find your Korean culture?
Yeah. I have a fantastic mentor in my musical life, Alan Jones, who's given me a lot of advices, a lot of things to really consider and think about. And during one of our, hangs, he talked about the importance. Well, he talked about Jim Pepper. Jim Pepper was a saxophonist here in Portland, Oregon, and he was an amazing saxophonist, world renowned, truly a great musician. And Jim Pepper comes from American Indian or Native Indian, heritage culture. His grandfather was the chief at the time, and they would sing chants, they would sing songs, that were spiritual, and he just grew up in that culture a lot. But eventually, as he grew up, he started really pursuing his life into jazz and trying to become like the next Charlie Parker or the next John Coltrane. But then Ornette Coleman, another great saxophonist, came and talked to Jim Pepper like, hey, you come from Native Indian tribe, like you have all this rich musical heritage in you. Why don't you incorporate it? You should really look into that. Like, this is something that's you, that reflects with you, that resonates with you personally. Like, you grew up in this. So Jim Pepper went back, really took this in, and he wrote songs, songs that were inspired from his culture. Then he wrote a song called Witchy Taito, which became one of the biggest hits, that he wrote in his life. And that was something Jim Pepper told Alan, that Ornette Coleman came and told me. And then Alan told me, to incorporate this. Because, I mean, if you really think about it, like, I came at a young age to America, and coming like as a second grader here in America, you can very easily lose touch with your culture, where you came from, even though you have family here with you, it's still not the same. You lose the society, the culture, how things used to work. I had to adapt a lot in order to fit into American culture. So because of this really fascinated me, man. Like, I started just researching, looking into music, looking into different things. And it was a weird feeling listening back to those music. Like,
did you feel connected to it, or did there was just a disconnect? Or
it wasn't a disconnect. It definitely got connected. Like, it was one of those unexplainable feelings of just like listening to it and like, wow, this is who I am, you know? It made me really care about my culture, about me being a Korean. I mean, like,
It's a powerful thing.
it is. It really is, you know? Like, even growing up, you know, in America, I'm sure people have felt this in different cultures, like, where my culture of Korean, you know, let's say food. Food is a huge thing with Asian culture, where, you know, some kid who's grew up here in Beaverton, Oregon, you know, all his life, you know, might not have seen that food or smelled that food, and they start criticizing the kid. Now, once they start criticizing it, then, you know, that kid feels, you know, just not, they don't feel belong, invulnerable, if that might be the word. Just, they don't feel belong. They feel disassociated because of where they're from, you know? When they grew up eating this, you know, this was their life. And then they start disassociating with that, you know, in order to fit into the new thing. You know, they're like, then you get kids like, you know, why are we eating rice and soup? Why not have a fucking, I'm sorry. Why not have, you know, burgers and fries, whatnot, you know? And you start trying to wrap your head as a newer person, like, you try to run away from you being an Asian.
Yeah.
You trying to run away from that and trying to become this new thing. And, you know, I guess I don't really know where I'm trying to go with this, but
Would you say it was difficult? Like, are you in a transformation period right now of trying to reconnect with the things that you worked really hard to run away from?
I think the one way for me to really work on this would be to go back to Korea,
Mm.
really experience it, because I feel like I'm in a prejudiced headspace
Mm.
of where I don't want to accept, where I don't want to accept. But
Don't want to accept what?
exactly, you know, what do I not want to accept? Me being a Korean, you know? I mean, I accepted that, you know, but I don't know. It's a big topic.
It's a good journey. It's a good journey to be on the pursuit of. I mean, we should
Right.
all try to find our background and our heritage, and because it's without a doubt, it's connected to us. Like, it's linked to our DNA, and
Mhm.
it's these invisible things that are who we are that we just thought it was just because of me, but really it goes on from hundreds of years ago.
Right. Right. Of
So it's
course.
it's a good journey to be on.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm still gonna, right now with the whole quarantine thing, you know, it's not gonna happen anytime soon with my trip.
Hmm.
But hopefully I'll go back, revisit, try to, you know, touch back on my family, trying to reconnect with the family, you know, trying to talk to them, get to know them a little better, things like that.
What is something that you've kept alive throughout your life? This could be a lesson you learned, or a specific memory that you had that just has stuck with you.
I think one thing that I really learned was to take a step back and listen. I think that's really valuable. We as humans are very sophisticated people, you know, and sometimes when other people are talking, we don't listen. Where our head is filled with so many other ideas that we don't, you know, really take in 100% of what that other person was saying. And I feel like this happens a lot in music for me too,
Mm.
especially when it's improvisational, when you have to be listening to everything that's around you and try to incorporate the best thing to say, best thing to do. And it can be hard for, even socializing with people too. So I think one of the best things that someone's told me was just don't think. Really, really try to concentrate, hear everything that the person is trying to say to you, And of course, this person was saying it in a musical field, but, he definitely meant it in everything, like listening, trying to create a genuine 100% connection, with that other person, trying to really listen to them. And honestly, that is one hard job to do.
Yeah.
To really let yourself, step down, let this other person really say it,
But we like being involved.
We love being involved. We hate it when we're not being involved. We feel like you hate us for not letting us be involved with what you're doing. That was a bad sentence, but
I totally
mean.
agree, though. I totally agree.
Right. And, we get insecure and everything like that. But I think that's okay. I mean, we want to be involved in a lot of things, but we don't need to. I was talking to my friend earlier today, and he's been mentally frustrated before the whole quarantine happened, of him being involved in way too many projects in musical settings, bands and things like that. And to a musician's eyes, that's what you want. You want to be getting a bunch of calls. You want people to recognize you. You want people to call you and use your musical talents in their projects. And he was part of like 6, 7, 8 bands, playing.
Wow.
Yeah, weekly. They would have weekly rehearsals and then they would have performances. So there would be times when Namu would have a performance, and right after it, he has to go do another concert, things like that. But yeah, he was giving me a call today, telling me after this quarantine, he's become much more mentally stable, healthier, because he's taken a step back from this. He's really let himself really hear what he wants to hear, what he needs to do in order for him to really succeed. And by excluding himself from all these activities that we think we need to do, he's benefiting much more.
Yeah.
He's taking, like, he knows music is something he loves, but that's not the only thing he wants to do. He told me, like, he wants to learn Spanish. He wants to learn sign language, He wants to spend time playing video games with his brothers, Like, there's a lot more things that he wants to pursue in life. And honestly, that was a beautiful thing to hear, Like, we always take ourselves so seriously to achieve greatness, but we never ask ourselves, how are we feeling? How are we doing at this time? And that's a problem I personally have too, because, sometimes it's hard to try to talk to yourself, to try to hear how you really feel. So you bottle it up. But, I guess what I'm trying to say is he's really truly understand what he needs to do, and how to make himself mentally be healthier in order for him to stay longer in this music, because if, let's say, he's like, no, let's follow like everybody else does by continuously trying to burn yourself out being in all these bands, you're going to burn yourself out. You're not going to like this music anymore. You're not going to have fun. Then you're going to start hearing yourself not having fun, like you start recognizing in recordings, like, wow, I'm having no fun at all in this recording. I remember when I used to play like 2 years ago when it sounded so much better, I had fun. There was music happening. Now it feels like it's a chore, So yeah, mental headspace is a valuable thing, and
Yeah.
I'm sure, especially during our times now, it's much harder to do that. You know, much harder to connect.
Too much of anything can kill you. I mean, we rely on drinking water, but too much of water is drowning.
Yep,
So it goes in every direction.
of
Too much of
course,
music, as much as you love music, it can kill you. And too much of anything that you're passionate about. It's good to have these other outlets that you can focus on, learning a language or being with family, being with friends.
of course. And I mean, you can defy that
Hmm.
and go the route of being insane and being famous, which a lot of people do. But I don't know. Like, have you heard that Schumann story?
No.
Man was insane, man. Like, he tried to be the greatest piano player, and he was so just not satisfied with his playing sometimes. Like, he would do exercises where, he wanted his fingers to really extend on the piano, and he just couldn't. So I don't know. There were rumors about this where people would say like he would have a string that would lift up certain parts of his fingers and then start doing exercise. Now try lifting this finger and use your pinky finger, that's impossible. But he
Hmm.
wanted to defy that and do it. And, that's just going against your natural human body in ways that can really hurt you.
Yeah.
There were some stories where he like cut this part in order
Oh
to
gosh.
reach further. Yeah. Oh man.
No.
But there
Well, there's, I mean, knowing your limit too, like knowing, it's good to challenge yourself, of course, but
yeah,
knowing what is too far, because everybody has that limit, and
everyone
maybe
does.
cutting your freaking your hands is that limit for some
It
people.
yeah, it should mean you should stop. Don't go further. But, I don't know. Humans are weird.
Yeah.
We want to get rid of limitation when limitation actually helps us in a lot of ways. Like, man, if you don't have any limitations, you're gonna go out of control. You're not gonna know what you're doing. You're gonna start, just spiraling out, thinking whatever you're doing is for the greater cause, when you have no limits to know what is a greater cause.
Mm. So let's go back to Chang. Um, what is one of your greatest accomplishments?
I feel like my accomplishments are. I've had small accomplishments, but I don't like to have big accomplishments. You know what I mean? Like, it feels big at the moment,
Mm.
but it's just a small thing in order to lead up to it. I mean, yeah, I've had a lot of those, like preparing for a concert, or like business purposes, like getting something ready for a recording session or hoping the money is ready, or getting enough money, things like that all over, and yeah, I've had those accomplishments and I felt great when achieving them.
Mm.
I've had some moments that I was proud of, but looking back on it, like, yeah, that was something I was happy about. But now, I've changed. I want more of different things. Not, you know, not to sound like I'm a greedy person.
Do you have somewhere that you want to be in the next 5 years?
I would like to be able to teach. Um, I think teaching is one of the greatest things humans can do. Being alive, at least. Like, no matter who you are, whether your job is the furthest thing away from teaching, at some point you will teach. You know,
Yeah.
when you have kids, you'll have to teach them, really help them further, benefit their lives as well as help our world and generation. Small ways to big ways, I don't, as a teacher, I don't need to make next Elon Musk, but, I want to give back what I learned musically in the best way possible to the younger kids, like it'd be sad for me to just learn things and let it sit here in my head and just evaporate away. That suck.
Yeah.
I've heard and learned a lot of great things from a lot of great instructors, and it'll be great to pass this on as well as my own ideas and my own passion for music.
Well, I see the cycle, like the blues cycle going here, where the stage one for you was learning how to listen and learning how to truly just engage and learn from your listening. And then stage two is actually implementing what you've listened in interpreting it to yourself, what it means to you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, life works like that in so many ways, and it doesn't only have to be the blues cycle too. Like art form and our lives are so intertwined that we can see it. That's why people love art. Like I said, the giving back. There will be a time when all of this will come to an end. We will figure out a final solution for the virus. And once that happens, art needs to progress on. We need to start the wheel rolling again. And we've been keeping the wheel rolling. It's just not reaching out to as many people as we'd like to.
Yeah.
But,
What is that wheel for you? You talked about the art wheel, and you gotta keeping it turning. How in this time where it's kind of a pause, and it's hard to put out content and to play live music. How are you keeping the Chang train going?
well, the chain train's going by me just trying to write a lot, trying to figure myself out, like talking about trying to understand my own personal sounds. What do I like? I just pick up the trumpet and start playing what I need to hear. What, or not what I need to hear, but what I'd like to hear. And these ideas I would bring to the band once we meet. And hopefully once we meet, we all are ready to roll. Our creative minds are just ready to start making something. New sounds, new whatever. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now with just trying to wake up and write. And also, the teaching too.
Yeah.
Wanting to learn new things and teach, finding new ways to teach. There's so many ways that kids learn. Like the
We're not just kids.
Not just kids. Well, I mean, I'll be teaching a lot of kids for public school and things like that. But I'd like to teach everyone. That's the main goal, to get to a certain level to teach.
Do you have, and you might have already touched on this prior, but do you have something, a takeaway from somebody that you've kept?
I do have one thing, and it's to stay positive, really. Like, the hearing of, glass half full or glass half empty. Just trying to be okay with having the glass half full. I'm half full. That already sounds like, hey, I'm already going up there.
Do you know how you change your mindset to think half full?
Yeah. I do have to do meditation, honestly. Like, and I'm not really heavily into meditation, but like, I do meditation, like a very basic one, just to clear my head. Take a moment to close my eyes, start doing breathing exercises, have a tempo going and then start breathing and trying to ask myself questions, really personal questions, like literally imagining my own self in front of me with everything that's going on inside me.
Huh.
Like just that image in front of me. And my conscious self is talking to the subconscious self. Like, what's up? How are you feeling? Is there something that you want to tell me?
Yeah.
And by doing this, for me personally, it allows me to start opening up things that I haven't really ever considered, or even just considered, but not really deeply connected with. Like, we have a lot of thoughts in our head that just floats around and that we're kind of aware of, but it's so subconscious that we don't know it's there until we really focus towards it and we're like, oh wow, it was there. I've realized this actually. I've known that it was in my head, but I didn't know it was actually there until I focused towards it.
Yeah.
So yeah, then I start finding out like, oh, I felt like this, for this reason, and I don't know if it's that reason. This is just what I think. And I'm going to try to see how can I get out of that, and then I figure out, well, what if I do this? Am I going to really feel terrible doing this? Am I forcing myself to do this? Because I don't want to force myself to do something that's untruthful. This is kind of going on a spill of, the meditation thought. Then the meditation kind of folds into more of like my own self-reflection. Then I come back to the meditation of just breathing, because then I start seeing like my mind is like a monkey on the rope, just like grabbing into the next rope to the next rope to the next rope.
Your mind is a monkey.
My mind, everyone's mind's a monkey, man.
Okay, please elaborate.
Man, the monkey likes to. The monkey grabs onto vines and just constantly moves. It's active, just kind of jumping onto rope next to that. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a symbolism of what our mind's doing. It's, our mind being the monkey has a lot of ropes and vines around us. That each rope is an idea and thought, and it likes to grab onto it, then it likes to grab onto the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Then once we realize it, once we started here, we're all the way over here, and we need to go back to connect to it, And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Our mind is like a monkey grabbing onto ropes.
Picking your stream of consciousness, like picking your idea from one thing to the next and not like clumping them all at once.
Yeah, or our minds can just kind of do that, I guess, like without us naturally realizing it. If you think of one thing, then you think of the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Well, I have never heard that, but I really love that kind of analogy of how we think and our process of where we get to the next place.
Right. And the meditation part is to really let the monkey not jump around a bunch of ropes and grabbing it. The meditation is to really bring the monkey to a calm state, not to let the ropes distract you. Just bring yourself here. Don't let the ropes matter, And these ropes are just ideas that are, floating in us, problems, that gives us anxiety, depression, or even happiness, ranging from all level. We just want the monkey to just kind of chill there. And that's how a lot of people use meditation for, to not let everything destroy you.
Yeah. Well, that is a beautiful takeaway.
I hope so.
I love that so much of our mind is a monkey. Like I really just want to put that out into conversations and just leave it there and see what people come up with as far as what that actually means.
Yeah. I mean, talking in codes is really fun.
Hey, Jesus did it all the time, man. And we listen to him like 24/7 or something.
Yep. Some of us still listen to them now,
Yeah.
thousands of years later. But
Hey, we're gonna be listening to you thousands of years from now.
oh yeah, I'm gonna die poor, and then my music's gonna explode 500 years from now. And no, I'm sorry, that's really depressing. But that's how all musicians are.
Hey, but you're gonna make it big in 1,000 years or so. That's gonna be
Yeah,
pretty
man.
cool.
My family, they're gonna be out of the royalties by then. No, I'm sorry. I'm being a negative fancy.
In thinking back to the discussions we had today, and also just thinking about you and yourself, what do you want the listeners to know about you? What are some takeaways they should know about Chang Park?
The thing you need to know about me is that I am just a regular human being trying to do everything like everyone's doing. I like music, so that's the thing that I'm trying to study and learn. But, you love uh what's the filmatography? What's the right word, Hayden?
Cinematography.
Cinematography. You love cinematography and you're pursuing in that, and we're the same. We have our own career and own thing that we pursue. So I'm just a regular human being trying to create. You know, I don't know.
Oh, I think they'll most definitely know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's not the best way to end on this. Here's another thing. I want people to know that I have a band out, Namu. Yeah. Um, yeah. We're a new band. We've only been active for a year, which kind of sounds long, but it's not long at all for a band to come out and play for a year. But we're kind of on hold right now because of the quarantine. But once it's lifted, we're gonna try to basically play as much as we can. We're kind of tired of sitting around.
Mm.
So try to come out. Keep a lookout for Namu. We'll be doing a bunch of great things, like album will be coming on your way, merchandise and music. And the musicians in the band are just hilarious, and you want to get to know them. It's
And there's a lot of I've got to see Namu a few times, and
hmm
there's a lot of diversity in music and in what you play. You play one song, and you can almost tell because a lot of your members of your band helps create the music that you all play, um,
exactly. And
with the influence of improvisation as well.
right, it's a thing. Like I mentioned about sketches, when I write all these songs and bring them in, I write a idea of what I think the music should sound like, and then I bring it to the band. And of course, each person is individually different. While I come from a background of hip hop, jazz, classical music, and so on and so forth, our different musicians come from a different background. In the group, some musicians love heavy metal music. Other musicians love 80s rock and roll. Other musicians love Grateful Dead. Like, it ranges from so many different levels that once I bring a specific idea, I'm gonna get all these new things that I haven't even realized. And that's the beauty of it. When I start incorporating their own ideas that they believe in and that they loved and incorporate it into my music, then it starts flourishing. And then we have to discuss about how can we make it really function? How can we make it into a story that can let the audience really experience it in a beautiful way? And, you know,
And it is beautiful, and it there's a payoff because the audience, like, due to the improvisation, as well as like you're still staying consistent, but there's minor adjustments every time. Like, you're seeing a new thing
mhm.
um every single time you see you all perform live. um And then it's really cool just seeing all these different identities and these different inspirations just mesh. I mean, you hear like uh, I definitely hear like the Doors with the guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
He has that kind of like really like classical 80s kind of sound, but
Mm-hmm.
then you get like a double pedal drum mixed with like an R&B kind of
Yeah.
rhythm. It's
Mm-hmm.
really cool just to see all these things you never thought would ever, like all these things sound great and they're great individually, but you would, if I told someone, hey, like, have you ever heard like R&B mixed with metal mixed with Korean pop or something like that? Everyone would be like,
Right.
nah, man, nah. But it just, it works, and it's really cool to see that. I highly advise once Namu keeps on going, I'll post on my social media pages when you're all performing. Um,
Yeah.
cool. Well, any final thoughts for you?
Man. Be kind to others. You know, I mean, you just, that's such a cheesy thing to say, but it's hard times right now, and we can easily just let our anger overcome us and get mad at people, just for the smallest things. So just take a step back, know that your hardship is equally as hard on them. So just just keep in mind, don't try to get all mad, get all personal with them. Just take a step back.
Taking a step back and taking a deep breath.
Yeah,
Everyone's going through a lot right now.
exactly.
Yeah, it's good to have, especially with that meditation of, it's good to do that for yourself, of to try to disconnect with your physical self and look at your reflection and ask yourself, how are you doing? Because if you could do that to yourself, then you could do that to that guy that cut you off in the freeway.
Yeah. Oh man, driving has been the best thing that's
Oh
been
man.
away from quarantine.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was really nice talking with you, Chang.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to seeing this once it comes out.
Yeah. You have a good one.
See you later.
Okay, bye. That wraps up this episode. Thank you to Chang for being today's guest. Special thanks to Harrison Garratt for creating the show's music, and to Visual Aid Inc. for supplying the show's equipment. Tune in next time to hear from the strongest woman I know, my mother, Michelle Garratt. With her years of experience as being a music teacher, Michelle is helping strengthen the voices of people with Parkinson's all around the world. Thank you for listening. This is Hayden Garratt. Keep it alive and live it for fun. See ya.